Welcome, my friend, to Next Level Change Success. I'm Therese Perez, a change strategist and practitioner with over 20 years of experience designing and delivering impactful change programs across various industries. In this podcast, I share real-world practical strategies to help you create and deliver positive change experiences, whether you're a leader, practitioner, or someone looking to bring new ways of working to life. In today's fast-paced world, change is constant. Here we focus on how you can put people at the centre of your change strategy, because people with a sense of purpose are the most important link in driving performance. So if you're ready to create meaningful change and achieve all the success that comes with it, keep listening. Together, let's change the conversation and take it to the next level. Hello. Welcome to another episode of Next Level Change Success. My name is Therese Perez and I'm the founder of myvirtualchangemanager.com. I'd like to acknowledge that I am recording on Tharawal country and pay my respects to the traditional owners and custodians on the land on which I am recording, and to elders both past, present and emerging. Let's talk all things curiosity for this episode, because I remember probably the word curious or being curious came on my radar. It would only be 4 or 5 years ago, I think, mentioned in a meeting, and I thought, what a great word, being curious, and how powerful it is to be curious. I mean, it was something that I definitely had always applied, yet never named it, and found such a really interesting power in being proactively curious and really embodying that. And part of the focus on curiosity is the ability to ask questions from a genuinely curious area. So I guess there's a lot of different words and catchwords and phrases that become quite inauthentic in the way that people approach it, because they just use it as a tool. I mean, anything could be weaponized and or used for not necessarily the best intentions. However, the concept of curiosity, it was a label that I hadn't really thought about using the word curious, but was definitely behavior first. So therefore, being able to say, I'm just curious about this and I'm wondering, how does this work? And that insatiable almost curiosity that I had, it was good to be able to package it, I guess, in that term, and to talk about it around the power in genuine curiosity. So I'm not like many people where that inauthenticity comes from, can be from I'm asking the question, but it's leading with the assumption, or it's directing people, or it's accusing people of not knowing what they're doing, or there's an energy around it, right? Genuine curiosity is, I have no idea, can you show me so that I can understand it better? And leaders need to be curious. They need to be more curious than they are often. If you've got performance issues, or if you're hearing feedback regarding your team, or maybe there's a piece of work that's not getting the traction that you'd like it to get traction with, there's not just the asking the question, it's asking the question 5 different ways to be able to elicit the key cause. It's listening, the ability to listen and unpack where there's energy around words, because that is almost like a breadcrumb trail that you follow in and of itself. And then there's the ability to be curious without being offensive, or to respect boundaries is also important. And being able to state the intention sometimes around your curiosity if it is misconstrued as to why you're asking the question. And that really just comes down to all of the intention setting, or what's the motive of the person who's asking the question. And oftentimes you feel that even before you realize it, around possibly being defensive around certain things. And you as you're asking questions, be prepared for a bit of defensiveness dependent upon how you ask it. And in all my courses, I talk about your approach, how you're approaching things from a change perspective. And this is just another area that if you approach it from a certain way because of your belief system, and you're trying to prove something, or you're trying to one-up someone, it's never received well, the concept of curiosity or asking questions. So therefore, a point of reflection is, how can I frame this What is my intention, conscious or unconscious? Am I being too judgmental when I'm asking the questions? Is that coming across? Which in turn means that people won't share the information that I need or would like, even when I ask it in a curious way. And unpacking that as to what's in that for you, I think is really, really key, important, beneficial for you to then be able to operate better, even from a BAU perspective, a business as usual perspective, or if you're working in a project or program, you would definitely be getting that live time feedback if you're asking questions and people aren't really answering them or supplying the information. And it's important also to ensure that you don't misconstrue if someone misses something in their explanation to you. You don't typically get the benefit in any organization around having a huge amount of time to dive deep into a particular area. However, you do need to know that just one conversation on a topic isn't enough, and that when you work in change or you're leading people or whatever that may be, you really want to have multiple conversations, unpack things. And it may be in a different context, but it might uncover another piece of the puzzle that you didn't realize before, that all of a sudden has everything take on a different hue or a different color because of the question you've asked and the answer you've received. For many changes, and I include myself in this, that no matter how experienced I am, or I've been in many organizations across many different technology landscapes, many process and policy landscapes, asking the questions and identifying gaps is one thing. Okay, sometimes it's understanding the culture of the organization where there's not necessarily pressure, high accountability. And so therefore there's reasons as to why the processes are the way they are, or even if the processes aren't documented at all. That's a very common thing in most organizations I've entered into. It doesn't necessarily mean that I don't document those processes or fill some of those gaps so that I can leave a legacy of this is potentially what you might want to do going forward. But definitely as you're going and asking the questions and unpacking different things, you are going to want to unpack from different aspects. And from a change perspective, your impact assessment, of course, is going to be one that may keep changing all the way through your change, even until it's deployed or until the new process, policy, technology is in place. And then you will still find more things that people didn't realize, or upstream impacts, downstream impacts that weren't considered. And at that point, it's how fast the project change team, everyone can work together to adapt and to respond, not react, but to respond to the requests that might be coming through or the issues that might be being raised, and how that can be remediated as fast as possible. So you don't get down on yourself if you don't feel like you know the entire story, and because from a time perspective, you don't have the opportunity to sit and observe in person what happens, because sometimes that is really, really necessary, or that you're unable to run a workshop with those who are impacted. It's all okay. Sometimes that is unavoidable. It could be that team who are impacted don't have time, and others don't understand the need for you to go and do that. And so therefore there might be a few hurdles put in play. However, it is important that as a result of that, you can remediate and you give yourself capacity, and the team, the project team, you talk in a risk sense around, I haven't been able to do it to the level that I would normally like to. So just be aware, I think there's a risk that we won't have capacity to respond after we go live. And can we have that flagged? Because if that becomes an issue, then at least it was raised prior to going live. It might impact your change readiness. And so it's how you then relay that story. But let's get back to this concept of curiosity, because I think it is really key if you're going to be someone who leads change or someone who implements change or influences for change. You want to be curious about the current state of play. So many people do just focus on future state. And even when focusing on what the change looks like and what are we moving to, what are we introducing, what will the new world look like, unless you're actually very curious about what is happening in current state and why are we doing this in the first place, in response to what issue, like what problem are we trying to solve, then it doesn't matter about how nice and shiny the future state picture is. Part of change and part of the change journey is being able to move people from where they're at now to the future. And some of the issue without having enough curiosity about the current state may mean that you end up with a solution that isn't fit for purpose and that isn't really well accepted. It might have to be rolled back because of issues and flow on upstream, downstream issues. And so being able to see the big picture, being curious allows you to do that. And asking the questions, whether it be from an impact assessment perspective, or I just want to understand current state. So I just want to map this out visually. Does this look right? Who are the stakeholders who are involved in this process? Have they all been engaged on the change that we're about to introduce? Who needs training? So many things are, and so many outputs are a result of curiosity and the ability to document that in your change impact assessment. If you're a leader and you're listening to this episode, how are you displaying curiosity with your team? I was always, and still am always, a person who will ask the question of the team members with the same level of curiosity that I would with another team who've come to me to talk to me about change that they're looking to introduce, which will impact my team. I will ask with a risk hat on. So how risky is this change? Have they engaged everyone? And then also, if they're saying they've engaged everyone, when I'm in other meetings and sessions with the people who they've engaged, I'm going to quickly just ask a question potentially at the end of the meeting. Have so-and-so had a chat to you about, they mentioned that they've had a chat to you about blah, blah, blah. Have you got any questions, any concerns? And I'm not doing that to check on my team members. I'm doing that because as a leader, I want to support them. I want to make sure that I'm letting my peers or my colleagues or other teams know that I've got my team's back and I know what they're doing. And so that if anything's raised and I don't know about it, that I can have that chat to the team member and get back to that individual. If I do know about it and can answer it right there and then, that's the sweet spot where I'm informed enough that I can talk confidently to it. And definitely as a leader, that helps my team member. It helps my peer to know that they're being listened to and that if they have concerns, I'm going to be concerned about it because I want to resolve it for them. And it all drives to an outcome for successful change. And that the concept and the perception that people have around being heard, and this is one that is really critical through change, and this is why curiosity is good, just to get a sense of what data is showing me, is the story lining up that the person's telling me, is what I'm witnessing and observing, does it all line up? Because alignment shows me that yes, this has true momentum, real clarity around risk and risk management, like everyone's on it about that, then that can be a really powerful change. It gets implemented. If that's not the case, then the risk barometer goes up, the tension goes up, the friction around the change goes up, and can really dilute the experience and the outcomes that people achieve or don't achieve. So definitely through a change lens, so critical to be curious if you're a leader. If I'm a change manager, if I'm a change practitioner, I'm having big curiosity around my impact assessment. I'm wanting to observe, I'm wanting to get access, I'm wanting to see for myself and not just take it on face value, what people tell me. It's really important that I do experience it myself to see whether the desktop assessment is validated or what were the areas that were really surprises to me and how do I then communicate that as well. And then obviously all the way through, whether it's in projects or in a team environment, this is very much around making sure that everything lines up and that there are as minimal surprises as possible. Because as I said, sometimes regardless of how curious you are, how many questions you ask, how many ways you ask it, sometimes there's just a total mismatch around the information provided. And if you haven't had the chance to really go through user testing, see the system, or go through the policy and read it, or the process and see it and see how it's mapped out, then you really can struggle and have a big mismatch between the reality and then what is laid out on the page. So it is key to have a real curiosity about how things work. I think most of my career, because of the different changes or different areas I've worked in, I can offer a lot of value regarding different areas of business in different industries, how it's done across industry and how certain processes can improve or be improved as a result of my experience across so many different industries and so many teams. So you get a bit of a flavor around certain technology, certain products, the gotchas that you have because of certain industries, and you can almost map it between industries as saying, well, this was a concern here, and in this industry, this seems very similar. Is there anything that is kind of this flavor in this organization? And get the feedback in relation to that. And you can ask some interesting questions to get people thinking. And it's not just to get people thinking, but it's to make sure that all gaps are kind of thought of and that you fully understand the process. When working in change, obviously being able to communicate to people how to do something or what they need to do, you need to understand the process. So you're often thinking, what are the processes? And if you're not, then you're really underbaking your change, your communications, your planning. And that will really come out where people might be quite passive in your change rather than actively engaged as a result of you not being able to get to that level of detail. So being able to ask questions, and definitely in a way that lines up with being collaborative and inclusive and with the genuine level of curiosity and an authentic level of curiosity, is a real skill to develop. And you may reflect that you're strong at this. How can you improve in this space? What are some areas where you could do just that little bit better? Thinking about just 1% better every day over time really does have it as a really great skill set. And then if you're not so good at it, what are the courses, the articles, the different teachers in this space who could be your mentors around having this level of curiosity, which can serve you so well in today's world, to be able to connect different pieces of work, different change, have you to be able to add value to those who are impacted by the change by understanding it as best you can. Hope you've enjoyed this episode all around curiosity. As I said, it is a bit of a catchphrase or a word that's used, can be weaponized for me. I think it's such a great trait, and from curiosity comes learning, and that's the one of the core values that I definitely hold at all times. So if you feel that you're curious about the world of change, come to myvirtualchangemanager.com. Hope you see what I did there. And I hope to speak with you next week. Take care of yourself, take care of others during these somewhat volatile times. And just remember that change matters because your people matter now more than ever. Even though people may be talking about AI and the machines, the reality is your people are and will always be your best resource. And your organization matters, your purpose matters in this world. So come to my virtual change manager to really be able to work with, influence, and change things in your organization for the better. And have a great day.